Hello everybody and welcome back to Canada Talk episode number 3, and today we're talking about downtown Toronto. Now I've actually already recorded this video about 4 weeks ago while I was over in Canada, and unfortunately when I was going back through editing it all I just wasn't happy with how I got my points across, and obviously then the last 2 weeks of me being in Canada was incredibly busy and I didn't actually have a chance to re-record it. So now that I'm back in Ireland, I'm here making all these videos, and obviously I had many more experiences of downtown Toronto. So I thought I'd make a video and share all of the great experiences that I had and places that I went to, and kind of what you need to know of visiting all these different places if you're interested in that. No, I was living around Oakville, which is a very nice suburb. It's not actually part of Toronto at all, although you would be forgiven for thinking so. So the easiest mode of transportation to get from Oakville, where I was, into downtown Toronto is by the GO train. And I think I've already spoken about the GO train in a previous episode, but it's this double-decker train that is really, really cool. Very regular. I think only once in my entire month of using it was it delayed. Maybe some Toronto people can tell me if that's true or not, whether you think it's fairly regular, but certainly compared to Ireland, it is very, very regular in terms of its scheduled times. But I went from Clarkson GO station, to downtown Toronto to Union Station, and that took about maybe just under 40 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. And it was very pleasant. They've Wi-Fi on board and everything was really good. It's actually pretty cheap as well. I think an adult pass, or day pass as they call it, is about maybe $18, which works out to be somewhere between maybe 14 euro. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, that's not too bad. I guess you can call that a return, but actually you can use that day pass as much as you want. You could, in theory, and I haven't done any research, so tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that ticket will take you to anywhere in Greater Ontario, from anywhere from Ottawa all the way down to Niagara, which is pretty cool when you think about it. I mean, that is hundreds of kilometers, whereas over here, if you want to go to Sligo, it's going to cost you quite a bit more than 14 euro return. The Union Station was very nice. It's right in the heart of Toronto, and I'm going to speak about that right the way through this video, because my little hub, because I was using public transport and I'm not old enough to drive over there in theory, I'm old enough to get an international license anyway. So because of that, I had to use the GO train, and the Union Station was the best station for me. I also used Exhibition Station once, but again, I'll get onto that a little bit later. But yeah, from Union Station, you can go basically anywhere in Toronto by foot. And I spent about 4 hours doing a walking tour, and that's when I actually recorded the first version of this video. But unfortunately, things just didn't really work out. I didn't really like it. But from Union Station, I walked to the Rogers Centre, and that is where the Blue Jays play. And the Blue Jays, which is a baseball team, I've gotten to support it. I already knew of them before I went to Canada, obviously. My grandparents used to send me updates on their progress. But yeah, I've actually really started to like baseball, which is a little bit weird because I'm not somebody who usually likes kind of these Americanized sports, but I really enjoyed baseball while I was over there. I watched a load of it on the telly, and I actually went to a Blue Jays game. Again, used the GO train to get there and back. It was honestly brilliant. If you are a Blue Jays fan or a baseball fan, if you like the look of the Blue Jays merchandise, you may want to have a little bit of money spare because it is quite expensive. In fact, I was in the store, and if you would like to buy a Blue Jays replica jersey with a player's name on the back, it's going to set you back $190, which is around 150 euro. Now, it's gorgeous. It's buttoned up and all that. I didn't pay that, by the way. I got mine in a clearance auction. But, even still, it's a gorgeous piece of fabric, but is it worth $190? No, it's not. But again, Nike paid 1 billion euro, or $1 billion, as I should say, to secure the contract for the entire Major League Baseball franchise, so I guess they have to pay it back somehow. Now, the Rogers Centre is right slap bang in the middle of Toronto. In fact, from the GO train, you can actually see the stadium, and you can see Ripley's, and you can see the CN Tower. In fact, all those 3 major tourist attractions are literally right beside each other. In fact, the Rogers Centre and the Ripley's face each other. They're on the same avenue. It's all pedestrianised. And the CN Tower is, again, right beside the both of them too. It's iconic. If you ever go to the Rogers Centre and you sit in one of the areas, you can actually see the CN Tower from where you're sitting, and it's lovely when the roof's open. But yes, so I went to Ripley's as well. It was the second time I was there. I went back all the way in 2016. I was only so from the Rogers Centre you can go to Ripley's, and I went to Ripley's as well. It was my second time going, and I have to honestly say, okay, the first time I went there I was only maybe like 9 or 10, but I honestly thought Ripley's was bigger. I wasn't too impressed. I mean, it was great. There was a giant squid and loads of different things, or an octopus, I should say. There's an amazing moving travelator, and essentially you go through one of the big tanks. It's kind of this enclosed off area. There's probably videos on screen of it now if I'm decent at editing. And yeah, I mean, it was lovely. It was really, really cool. But it just wasn't as big as I remember it. It wasn't the greatest of selection of marine life I've ever seen, which for Ripley's is, I guess, a little bit disappointing, but it's a great day out. It is fairly expensive though. I think it was something like $40 a ticket. It could even be more, but it certainly did shock me when I saw how much we had to pay to get in. But yeah, it's big. It's a good aquarium, sure. If you go just across the road, there's a place called Steam Whistle Brewery, and this is a place I came to know and love. I first heard about it on Boom 97.3, which is my favourite Canadian, certainly favourite Toronto music station. Plays 70s, 80s, 90s music, which is an area of music which I really, really like. But Steam Whistle is gorgeous. It's really, really nice. The clue is in the name. It's on an old train yard. And it's amazing. You can do a brewery tour. Sadly, I didn't have time to do that, but they have a whole load of merchandise, and you'll probably see me wear a few bits of their merchandise or things that grow around the set. When I eventually do get a set tied down, you'll probably notice that every single time I've released a video, it's been in a different background, a different setting. I'm still working on my set and where I want to record videos, so let me know which one you prefer, and I'll have a list of all the videos where I've shown my beautiful beardy face, and you can tell me which set is best. But yeah, this is the new one anyway. It's just a wall. But the Steam Whistle is very, very nice. They do very nice food. I had a very nice cheese board there one of the days when I was walking around, and I highly suggest, if you do have time and if you're waiting to go to a Blue Jays game, or the first day I went down to the Rogers Centre, there was Beyonce playing that evening. So yeah, if you're gonna wait around there, I highly suggest going to the Steam Whistle Brewery. It's a really, really good fun. Now, we can't talk about this tiny little area without talking about the CN Tower. And for those of you who maybe have been following me on my Instagram, you will know that I went to the top of it. In fact, not only did I go to the top of it, I walked around the outside of it, 116 stories in the air. And that was quite an experience. That's not something I usually do. I'm not really this kind of adrenaline junkie kind of guy, but I just figured it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It's called the Edge Walk, and that's actually what's on my cap, which I bought. I have the t-shirt too, and I thought I'd wear my McLaren IndyCar jersey today. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. The view is unrivaled. It is, again, a little bit expensive. Like everything in Toronto, it is pretty expensive. Maybe not as expensive as Dublin, but it is certainly as cool. And for what you get, for the experience you get, I mean, I'm still reliving walking around the outside and leaning off of the tower. It's pretty mental. So from the CN Tower, I walked on my magical 4-hour walking tour, self-guided of course, around Toronto. I want to go to Kensington Market, which is a very urban, hip, whatever you want to call it, market, with loads of street vendors and different things. But to get to there, I had to walk through Chinatown, and that was a really cool experience. Because I wanted to see not just the kind of like financial district and all of the big massive skyscrapers of Toronto. I wanted to see every part of Toronto. I wanted to get a feel for what the city was actually like, because let's face it, I can't afford it, nor do I really want to live in a condo 54 stories in the air. That's not really my thing. So I got to walk through Chinatown, and of all the places I went to in Toronto, it was probably the roughest. Now, that being said, it actually wasn't that rough, certainly compared to places that, you would walk around in Dublin for. There were some pretty interesting things happening on street corners and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool. And honestly, the smell of all the restaurants and food walking through Chinatown was really something else. So absolutely, if you have time, if you don't mind walking maybe about half an hour from the CN Tower, place like that, about maybe 40-minute walk from Union Station, I would highly recommend checking out some of the restaurants and food areas around Chinatown, because obviously that's probably what it's known for. But yeah, exceptional. Then I got to Kensington Market, and now I'm not somebody who really likes to walk around these urban hip markets, and I don't mind crowds, but when it's just people upon people upon people, yeah, I didn't really like it, to be honest with you. I don't know. It's hard to say. It was probably a little bit too urban for me. I'm not somebody who likes that sort of thing. It was cool to go to and to explore and to say that I've been to Kensington. But yeah, in all honesty, I could take or leave Kensington. Now, there is another market that I went to, which I am going to talk about in a minute or so, but I do want to talk first about the financial district, because I just mentioned it there about a minute ago. The financial district is where you're going to find all of these incredible skyscrapers and buildings. And honestly, it's quite mental. When I walked down Toronto first, I was going to the Ed Mirvish Theatre to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. By the way, highly recommend that. If it is coming to a theatre near you, absolutely go see it. It is brilliant. And I'm not a Harry Potter fan by any means. I like it. I'll watch the movies if they're on TV and all that. But I'm not a super fan or anything like that. Certainly compared to some of the people that were all dressed out in their Hufflepuff uniforms or things like that. But it was a great experience, and I like obviously Harry Potter, and so yeah, I really loved it. I got a lot of the connections, whereas maybe if you're a bit more casual than me as a fan, you might not get it, but still it was great, and the special effects are quite honestly second to none. In fact, there was a Dementor just before the interval that was suspended in the air, and honestly it did give me the chills a little bit, so that's when you know they did a good job. But after that was done, it was dark. It was around 11 o'clock, and I really got to see Toronto's nightlife, and that's something I didn't really get to experience much more beyond that. I mean, I was there once maybe after the Blue Jays game, but I was kind of rushing to get home. I was a bit tired. It was a long day. But something I immediately noticed was how much opportunity there is in the city. There's always construction going on. There's always buildings being erected and things like that. And honestly, it's just quite incredible how big, how vast the amount of skyscrapers is. I mean, it's quite crazy when something 116 stories high, actually, my apologies, not 116 stories, the CN Tower is much higher than that, but it's honestly blocked out by all of these buildings. It's really something to behold. Now, if I went to the top of the road after coming out of Union Station and I turned left and I did two sides of a square, I would be at the CN Tower. But if you turn right and you walk for a little while, or you get a taxi, as we did because it started chucking it down with rain, you can get to St. Lawrence Market. And if you ever get the chance, it's honestly not that far of a walk, and for what it is just incredible. It's the St. Lawrence Market. I think it's the oldest market in Toronto, or certainly one of the oldest anyway, but it is spectacular. It's really got this oldie worldy, if you've ever been to the English market in Cork, it's very similar to that, certainly a very similar feel. The produce on offer there, the incredible selection of meats, of fish, of cheese, it was brilliant. It was a great market. It's much more up my street of kind of food stuff rather than buying jewellery and things like that. Certainly it is, I guess, maybe an older demographics market, sure, but there is a whole lot of stuff for young people, and I really loved it. Now, I also took the boat rides, or the ferry rides, I should say, out to the Toronto Islands, and what I would say to you is, if you've nothing to do, and it's a nice enough morning, go for a walk around the Toronto Islands, but do not expect to do anything more than that, because yeah, you could walk around them, you take this really nice view from the boat, but beyond that, there really isn't much else to do. And I kind of underestimated that, to be honest. Thought there would be more, but it is they're residential islands, and then on a different island, there's one of the Toronto airports too. So yeah, I guess that's probably fair. But yeah, it's nice to walk around, sure, and you get a nice view, but yeah, it's okay, but it's really not that great. So, what do you guys need to know about Toronto if you're thinking of visiting? Well, here's what I learned. Number one, things are expensive. Different things are expensive. And if you are Irish and you're going over there, you'll certainly notice that things maybe like food is a little bit more expensive than things like clothes. Public transport is certainly cheaper. The ferry only costed me something like a €5 to get over there and back, which was pretty good, you know. But yeah, certainly if you're in Toronto, it can get expensive, and honestly, it will get expensive. Maybe not as expensive as Dublin, but certainly not far off. Number two, do your research before you go. I could have certainly taken a bus and saved myself quite a lot of hamstring pulls from walking about 7-8 kilometers, maybe more. Yeah, I really should have been more clever about maybe taking a bus. So certainly do your research on what GO train stations you need to go to, and if there's any bus routes available. Taxis are pretty expensive, honestly, in Toronto because of the traffic. The cents just rack up all the time. I think something like a 5-minute car journey took us, I think it was about maybe $15. So yeah, maybe avoid the taxis if you want to keep hold of your money. But, you know, sure. What I also say is, the likes of the CN Tower is cool, the likes of Ripley's is cool, but do other things as well. Go to the likes of St. Lawrence and all these things, because there are so many things around Toronto that the tourist websites, they won't tell you about. So if you know anybody living in Toronto, certainly maybe young people, different places, go and ask them, because there are. I mean, one big thing I regretted coming back at the end of my journey was reading an article and seeing all these other cool places, basically near enough to where I was, that I didn't get to go to. In fact, apart from maybe the financial distillery district, as I said, Chinatown, I didn't explore Scarborough at all. I didn't explore anywhere out there, and that's maybe something I would have liked to have done. Maybe there isn't anything there, but I didn't research, and that's probably something that I regret. The last thing that I'll mention, because I could go on forever about Toronto, the last thing is, it's a very clean city. There wasn't any real rubbish that I could see lying around. There is a little bit of a homeless problem in Toronto, but from where I was, and I walked, as I said, quite a good bit of Toronto, it wasn't that prevalent. There wasn't too many people sleeping rough, but that's not to say there is. There certainly are people sleeping rough around Toronto, certainly under bridges and things like that. Absolutely, you could see it, but it wasn't, honestly, as bad as I was expecting. Certainly, as I said, not as bad as Dublin. But yeah, if you're going to Toronto, enjoy it. It's a great place. I thoroughly enjoy my time there. And yeah, if the Blue Jays are in town, go catch a Blue Jays game, because there's plenty of them. In fact, if you don't know baseball at all, they play in either series of 3 or 4 at each time. So there's going to be like, basically, no matter if you're there for like 2 weeks, the Blue Jays are going to be playing maybe 7-8 times in those 2 weeks. It's honestly mental how many games they play. So yeah, go catch a Blue Jays game. And on Tuesday, if the Blue Jays are playing at home on Tuesdays, they do Looney Dog Day. And Looney Dogs are really cool. They're $1 hot dogs. Yep, $1 hot dogs. And I had one, and I'm safe to say they're very nice. So you should definitely try one. Anyways, guys, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching. What do you think? Would you like to visit Toronto? Is there anything else you want to know about Toronto that I can tell you? Go pop your questions in the comments. If you liked this video, then press like, and if you liked it an awful lot, you can subscribe and watch more. I will be posting more Canada Talk videos coming soon. I'll also be talking about the Rugby World Cup that's coming up, and other things too, including a trip to the World Cup. Maybe. But you'll have to stay tuned for that. So thank you so much for watching. We will see you in a little while. Take care, and goodbye.